Hello, if you are here then I take it that you have watched my series of videos on light novels, why they are bad and why I need your help. If not, please check the annotation to go to those videos first. If your opinion to the reason I was constantly rejected from the contest was because I am bad at writing, then please allow me to pitch some of these novels I have written, and you can judge for yourself if I'm actually good enough for your support. This here will be a brief video introducing my novels, the synopsis, the introduction to the characters, the concepts, ideas, and themes behind the story. All with minimal spoilers, so please, if you feel like this story is a good idea and would like to see it become a thing, please provide support however you feel like it. More details at the end of the video. To start, I have come with a story I'm actually proudest of. This story is a favorite of mine for its theme which I feel needed to be said and is vital to the current anime market. If you like this pitch, a like and a comment would be helpful to achieve our goal. And if you are an artist who is interested in drawing this story's official art, either in manga or novel illustration form, feel free to contact me. So before we dive right in, I'll say it one more time. Soft spoiler warning. Resen is a boy who is deeply in love with lyrics, a vocaloid equivalent virtual singer because in middle school, when he contemplated suicide, it was her song that gave him the hope to live on. Upon seeing lyrics being stuck in obscurity, Resen fears that she will be forgotten and sets to work out on a project to boost her popularity, together with his best friend Furo and his sister Hinageshi. But one day, when he saw a strange light and chased after it, he saw that the light was actually a real living, breathing, flesh and blood game character, portable monster, Red Panda PQ. And as such, he was attacked by it. Upon getting shocked and thinking he was going to die, his body got backed up and Resen recognized that it was transformed into and taken over by another anime character, the mecha anime Gundam protagonist Cameleo Tomino. Working together with Cameleo, Resen managed to beat PQ back, at which he discovers that PQ's true form is that of Hinageshi, who was just up for some mischief. Discussing this matter, Cameleo tells Resen that these anime characters turned real are called Metacaras, that they are fictional characters given physical form by taking over a human body and transforming it, similar to Yugi transforming to Pharaoh. Though now that they know of the Metacaras, the team not only has to beware of other Metacaras who may appear and cause more troubles, but will have to find the secrets of where they originate from and what their true purposes are, all along with continuing the project to bolster lyrics' popularity. You may recognize that all the characters are named after influential people in animes and comics, such as Tezuka Osamu, Tajiri Satoshi, and Stan Lee. It's just a theme naming I use for this story. Naming schemes are something you're going to see a lot in my stories. Also, the story uses multiple POVs changing from chapter to chapter to give perspective from each character. And each volume gives special attention to a specific character that you could call them the protagonist of the volume. Tezuka Resen. The first POV character, he's deeply in love with lyrics as she has saved his life. He has a tsundere abrasive personality, both to accentuate his strong opinions and to cover up his vulnerabilities. Within Lyrics Project, he worked as a songwriter, editor, and director. As an amateur anime critic, Resen is very savvy of anime trope and is prone to bashing them, leading to a rocky relationship with Cameleo at first. And despite fully admitting to his love for lyrics, he also has a deep dislike for waifuism, both for the often self-serving nature of it and the effect it has on the anime industry. Cameleo Tomino. Resen's Metacara and the protagonist of Gundam Exceed, pilot of Gundam Liberty Exceed. In his anime, he is a Gary Stu who won most of this battle effortlessly, is always right, and get all the girls, even though in the real world, this just translates to him being a goody two-shoes, prone to believing that he can't fail, and has a black and white worldview. He is a foil to Resen, being equally idealistic, though since he was a Gary Stu, he never knew how it feels for things to actually not go his way all the time. Tajiri Hinageshi, also nicknamed by herself as Poppy-chan. The core POV of Volume 2. Furu's little sister and the artist of the project. She is a big fan of Otamo and Mahou JoJo animes. She also might be the most moe character I'm ever going to write. Always bright and sunny, comparable to Inugami Korone. She is the Genki girl of the group, though when it comes to it, she also can be very cooperative and helpful, be it on the projects, or on the search of information on metacaras, or even in battles. Her side of the story focuses on how she insists on projecting her childlike idealism, even in the world that is growing with progressively greater and greater cynicism. PQ Hinagishi's Metacara and the mascot of Potamo, an albino red panda with electrical powers. He is short-tempered and is prone to attacking without warning, often also not listening to anyone but Hinagishi herself. I have spent over a year deciding just what animal PQ should be, that is already Pikachu size, has Pikachu-like proportions, but yet isn't a rodent, so it wouldn't be too close to a Pikachu. Having once entertained the idea of making him a platypus, because real-life platypus has electrical reception, though ultimately, Red Panda just suits the best in terms of both size and proportions. I mean, just look at them. They already look like anime mascots as is, and all you need to do is just recolor them. Tajiri Furo, Hinagichi's older brother and Reisen's close friend since elementary school. He is a military otaku who loves guns and is popular at school for being both smart and sporty. In the project, as he is the only one of the trio who actually has no problems talking to total strangers, his job is to try and recruit additional helpers. He is a cis-con towards Hinagishi in an overprotective brother kind of way. Otherwise, he is generally nice and level-headed. Conceptually, he is designed as the best friend who, despite also being an otaku, is actually socially adjusted. Miyazaki Suikasura, usually shortened to Suika. Introduced in Volume 2 and is the core POV of Volume 3. An idol Camillo rescued from a molester in a handshaking event, who later contacted Camillo and Reisen so that they can talk over text messages. She is an idol who dreamt of singing for the sake of giving hope and inspiration to everyone, as per the idol ideals, yet she ended up finding it the hard way that modern idols are more exploited as merchandise solely for the sake of making money. That they're basically dead as role models and symbols of hope. She is the commentary on the idol industry and its otaku fanbase, which projects an illusion of inhuman purity onto the idols while refusing to look at them for who they truly are. That no matter what good intentions she has, the business doesn't want to see it because it doesn't make money, and the worst of her fans doesn't want to see it because that's not their demand. Himawari Mix, the mascot of the Stinging Voice synthesizer program, who became Suika's Metacara when she joined up with the main group in the latter half of Volume 3. As she originally is just a singing program, she doesn't have a solid official canon personality and therefore would not have been able to become a Metacara. However, when an anime adaptation featuring her appears, that version of her became a Metacara. Though the anime adaptation was one of those instances where the writers totally assassinated the character, turning Mix from an all-loving idol to a snotty brat. And that was also the personality the Metacara version of her take after, despite the anime understandably being universally hated by the fans. Therefore, her arc is to find out who she really is, and coming to terms with being a representation, which is bashed by the fan for not being the real Mix. Peony Stanley, introduced in and is the core POV of Volume 4. An American girl involves the cousin moving to Japan and staying in Reisen's house. Using ore as she learns Japanese from shonen mangas and loves superhero comics, she admires the political hero, Owlman, as her father figure ever since she was small, envisioning herself as his sidekick. She has a striking resemblance to the lyrics, plus with an even more voluminous body, which is a fact that troubles Reisen from their very first meeting. Though to Peony herself, she treats Reisen as a younger brother and teases him for his nervousness and awkwardness, despite not knowing the reason behind it. At the same time, her arc also revolves around her trying to accomplish the superhero ideals, though with great power comes great responsibility shtick, even in defiance of reality. Owlman, the superhero in the comics Peony is a massive fan of, a billionaire vigilante who fights using gadgets and wits. A lot of Volume 4 is about Peony finding out about Metacaras, and therefore nags on Raisin to get him help her gain Owlman as her Metacara. And yes, I know DC already has an alternate Batman named Owlman, or rather, one alt Batman and one other kinda Batman clone, both themed after owls. And then there's also the Court of Owls, but well, there just aren't any other flying nocturnal animals with positive symbolism that I can base them on. So I'm sticking with an owl. I did try renaming him All Night for a double reference since it sounds kinda like All Might, but again, All Night, Night Owl, not really solving the problem here. But hey, if the characters themselves are different enough, then that should be fine, right? On the flip side, DC also has an alt Superman named Ultraman, so I guess that's just fair game. Tetsuko Teiri, Resident Soda sister and a newbie seiyuu, a core POV in one of the later books. She is struggling to break into the seiyuu market despite being a rather popular VTuber and Udate online. Her arc concerns how sometimes it is not raw talent or hardworking that will give you success, but rather knowing the right people. She can't get people to cast her because of the trend for casting seiyus with an already wide name recognition. Teiri might be popular online, but that isn't the name people recognize her by. Therefore, it isn't considered marketable. And of course, in a story about anime characters coming to real life, the story also explored the fact that as a VTuber, she is already basically the closest thing to a living anime character after the Metacaras. It goes into the theme of reality versus fiction, and how just because she uses an anime avatar, it doesn't mean fiction or being fake is inherently bad. She knows about Raisin's obsession with lyrics as well as his cause, and therefore acts caring to him as a mother figure. She's dating Walt, who shares her passion in voice acting. Walt Delphi, Terry's boyfriend and Peony's cousin. He works as a chef at a high-class restaurant at the hotel, though he is also an avid anime fan and a bridger, having moved to Japan exactly to fulfill his dream of getting a girlfriend seiyuu, where he meets Terry. He is meant to be a positive example of a foreigner otaku, someone who is otherwise a full-on weeb yet is a hardworking man with successful career and hobby. And yes, he is modeled after Chris Hemsworth, so Furo and Hinagishi actually calls him Thor-san. Lyrics. The voice synthesizer singer Raisin fell in love with. The one whose song gave him hope to continue living. Despite that, as she doesn't quite fit in with the Moe demographic, she is actually quite a minor character whose reputation is waning day by day. And it's Raisin's mission to try and prop her up, if only for the sake of preventing her from being forgotten. I won't spoil if she will ever become a Metacara down the line or not, or if Raisin would even succeed in winning her popularity. She's based on a real Vocaloid Lily, who is also my own favorite Vocaloid, who likewise can't escape the fate of being overshadowed by others with a higher voice pitch range. Toriyama, an otaku Furo recruited to help with the song project. He is a lolicon through and through and will not even attempt to hide it. His number one waifu is the gacha game character Communist Nyan. In fact, he is known as the person who popularized the game in the first place. Though despite being a pervy otaku who refers to himself as a pig, he is actually very intelligent and is the antithesis to Raisin. Exactly telling that the current anime industry needs otaku such as him exactly because the common audience isn't willing to pay. That otaku whales are the only thing keeping the industry afloat, and people like Raisin are just ungrateful freeloaders. Despite that, his musical composition skills is in fact up to a genuine article, which cornered Raisin into having a teeth-gritting alliance with him. While he is a foil to Raisin in just about every way, he is not a one-dimensional hate sink. Like Raisin, he also has his reason for becoming so obsessed with the 2D waifu. Aiken, introduced in Volume 2, a monster hunter character who is obsessed with hunting beasts. Though as he manifested into the modern world, he can't find any beasts he can actually hunt, and upon catching scent of PQ, he starts to obsessively stalk Hinagishi to get her to put out PQ so he can hunt. A mysterious thing about him is that since Monster Hunter is a game where the player is always fully customizable, and he is clearly designed after the player character and not the NPCs, it is a mystery to where his personality came to be. Other than that, the identity of his host is also a mystery, as Aiken himself claimed that his host is always asleep whenever he is manifested, further evidence that he is a very curious case even among Metacaras. Nikumang and Leo Major. Furo and Hinagichi's dog, a Shih Tzu and a German Shepherd. They were gifted to the siblings by their father, as he is constantly too busy with work. It shouldn't be hard to guess who picked which dog. Fullest disclosure, they're just family dogs. They totally are not integral to the plot and just serve to lighten up some moments. They are just fan service for dog lovers. Apart from the main cast, there are some meta-characters I can tell you about the characters that are based on, without spoiling what their roles in the story are. If you don't even want to know who they are, then skip to this timestamp. Otherwise, a slightly harder spoiler in 3, 2, 1. There's Luffy, a Kamen Rider, a JoJo stan, an Isekai protagonist, Walgreymon, a Kanmusu, Kenshiro, and Yugi. There are plenty of other meta-characters I have not listed here, if only because knowing their base alone can be a massive spoiler to what their roles are. And I guess I can also tell you this. The JoJo stan character is named Viva la Vida, and this is a design. The theme of Metafiction is the relationship between ideals, delusion, fiction, and reality. How it's not necessarily a bad thing to be influenced by fiction, by what is not real, if you can use it to become a better person. Every single member of the main cast has ideals they cling onto so strongly, you could call them delusional. They cling to the intangible concept that is not real, yet it is thanks to those concepts that they are able to grow. I hate stories like Ready Player One that puts in the "you shouldn't run away from reality" message at the very tail end after the protagonist has achieved all the riches in the world out of his exact obsession with the fictional. It's hypocritical and sounded more like an empty platitude by a writer who's afraid he might actually been pushing the message that it is okay to be a nerd. Then on the other hand, I also resent ego-based escapism such as a Gary Stu isekai, where your form of rejecting reality is to drown yourself in self-pity, masturbatory delusions that you are the best thing in the world, and anyone that disagrees are villains to be taken down. Risen is emotionally weak and dependent on lyrics song. He professed openly to loving her, yet he isn't some sort of otaku who would go out to buy a dakimakura or an onaho for her. He respects her as a person and is therefore very much sensitive to the fact that even as an unpopular character that she is, if Lyric was to be real, she would not be dating someone like him who constantly failed to boost her popularity. He isn't the sort of isekai protagonist who believes queens and goddesses should be heads over heels over him just because. He is someone who wants to become a better person so that he might actually be deserving of lyrics. And as represented by the Metacaras manifesting into this world, this story is meant to tell the message that ideals, or perhaps delusions, can become reality if you strive for it. In this era where many of the world problems comes from people being apathetic to everything, it is the ideals, the wish to dream for something higher that will solve our problems. The story embraces this impact of the ideals, of the influence it has on the people of the world. Sometimes, the words of Captain America or Luffy can reach more people and change our world for the better than even real-world politicians. But of course, if they can have positive effects, then it can also have just as many negatives. Such as how the idol industry attempts to build up the illusion of idols being your ideal girlfriend who will do anything for you, the very same way harem animes portray their girls. How it builds up a toxic mentality and a sense of entitlement in the people, all for the sake of money on the industry side, and a shallow gratification on the consumer side. And it is not limited to the girls, because in stories like Gary Stu, even men are objectified as they are observed to be punching bags and bowling pins that only exist for the sake of making the protagonist look better at their expense. It explores how clinging to this type of self-serving delusions can create an echo chamber where it compounds on your bad sides because the fiction you consume tell you over and over that you don't have to do anything because the world is going to bend to your every needs. And that if you're not happy, then it's the world's fault. You don't have to change anything. You can indulge in the illusion that fiction can help you improve and become a better person, which is why it is important to remember that just because there is a veil between it and reality, doesn't mean you can let your worst instincts take over. If you watch VTubers, then I think you understand the feelings. I've seen many who said VTubers helped them through depression from everything else that's going to hell in 2020. And not to exaggerate, but some literally said if it weren't for VTubers being there for them, they would have committed suicide. And that's the exact point I'm saying. Just because they are served under a veil of something not real, just because it's fiction or a mask of an anime avatar, doesn't mean it can't help you become a better person. It doesn't mean it can't inspire you. It doesn't mean it can't save you. It is okay to cling to escapism as a source of comfort and companionship if no one else in the real world is giving it to you. But it's not okay to think that because of that, the anime or VTuber is some sort of your personal sex toy that exists only just to pander to you. It still is important to treat them with respect. Some of them may be willing to indulge in sexual talks and accept you drawing and consuming loot out of them, but for those that doesn't, it is important to keep the line in mind and not cross it. Terry's POV will tackle on this particular VTuber side of the theme. At first glance, you may look at this premise and just think, isn't this just ripping off recreators? Which, well, I know saying it now doesn't really have any meaning anymore, but I began writing Metafiction way back on 2015, 2 years before Recreators came out. And the themes as you saw are massively different. The tone also is very different as Metafiction, while still having its fair share of actions, is far less focused on it than Recreators. Despite coming from animes, all meta-characters are subjected to this world's laws of physics and the limits of human body. Therefore, most conflicts are derived, explored, and solved through talking rather than battles. Metafiction is far more interested in exploring the character's personal problems, more internal conflicts than external. So you shouldn't go in expecting explosions. But yeah, since all meta-characters are referencing something else, you can also say that Metafiction is very derivative, and I will not deny that. Though as to deliver the theme of the importance of fiction and ideals versus the reality, I think that's kind of the point. It literally is about fictional characters coming to life and take a look at reality and how it contrasts to their ideals. And of course, with its tone being strongly anti-otaku and against most light novel cliches, it is very clear that this will also be my most controversial piece of work. To the point that you may think I am picking a fight with the people who are supposed to be my customers. But au contraire, I actually believe Metafiction is not a story for the otakus, but rather the reverse. The people who watch a lot of animes but are sick of the tropes and cliches that just can't seem to stop shoving into our faces. Yet despite that, still deeply loves animes and actually wants to see it improve. To actually both be able to internalize the effect of animes have on their own life, while also spreading its effects to the others and have them understand that just because it's fiction doesn't mean it's bad. It is pretentious, yes, but with this central message, well, I don't know how else I'm supposed to deliver the theme without being pretentious or with any more level of subtlety. And well, with the current state of both the industry, market, and consumer being what it is, I think I'm going to have to hit with a meteorite if I want to leave an impact. I am not trying to be deconstructive, I'm not trying to be the hipster fighting against the currents just for the sake of it. I'm just sick of the overuse of cringy tropes like many of you. But I also don't want my character to simply be the mouthpiece to deliver essays. I want them to be living people with their own goals, hopes, dreams, and delusions. You can say that it is exactly this. That is my way of putting idealism into reality. This is the part where I explain the graph in the beginning and the stats as shown in case something weren't clear. I suppose the top 4 are self-explanatory enough on what they are, so I'll just explain the scoring. Plot-based versus character-based. Metafiction, especially in the earlier volumes, are extremely character based since I try my best to make sure that everyone is indeed fleshed out. In later volumes, once you have gotten to know them, the plot will start to pick up in prominence instead. For action, a 3 means that while there are indeed fight scenes and they will be filling action fans' thirst, but they are not the main point. You might get one fight per book, but it won't be exploding. For romance, it gets a 4. Similar to action, romance fans will not leave this story dissatisfied, but it's still not the main selling point. Nevertheless, almost every major character will have a canon pair, and their relationship are meant to be built up through time. Now let's start with the unorthodoxy. This is how out of the box, how unique, how unorthodox the story is compared to your standard anime fare. As you can see, it's a story that is quite rebellious to the anime establishment. Metafiction scores a 4. It would have been a 5 if 3 creators didn't came out first and have a number of overlapping tropes. Theme heaviness, of course, with the entire thing being about escapism, ideals, delusions, and being a massive common theme that applies to every character, this is a very theme-heavy story. Perhaps the heaviest in all my stories. World building. It's set in Tokyo, so by that alone it shouldn't mean much. Though it gets a 4 through all the individual backgrounds of each metacharas, combined with the mechanics behind them that will be revealed in future volumes. I do intend that there will be one extra chapter at the end of each volume, where the POVs from a different metachara when they appear inside their own source material. It's a chance to get a deeper look into their own character and world. Fan service. Metafiction gets a 4, but this does not mean it's an ecchi series. An average ecchi series to me would be scoring like a 6 or 7 on this 5 scale. A 4 means there are characters designed to be sexually attractive, there contains at least one swimsuit and or onsen scene, a couple of dirty jokes, and at least one canon pair is mentioned but not explicitly shown as having a sexual relationship. I am against the over-reliance on sex appeal, but I am fine with it if it's used in moderation and with dignity. That is why a 4 in this case is merely because other stories I will be introducing would be on a 2 or a 3, so just want to clear that up. For the simplicity, it is how easy it would be for someone completely new to anime to understand it. Despite being something that's used a lot of critical viewing, I think Metafiction is relatively approachable. There is the only problem that you have to know about the basis of the metachara, the general anime trends, some basic status of the industry, and what each characters are referencing. But I also explain everything that isn't common knowledge, so I think that shouldn't be too hard. It has its moment of both intense seriousness and lighthearted comedy in balance, as all things should be. For the plan, I have planned through all the stories of Metafiction to the end, and since the latter parts are the heaviest in theme and plot, it is a sort of no compromise situation. I know Metafiction will be a frictional story, but I will not back down on most decisions I have made on it. Currently, I plan it to be 9 volumes, each volume around as twice as thick as your usual light novel, but depending on how things go, it could also be stretched to 12. Alright, that'll be all for our first pitching video. All for Metafiction for the time being. If you are interested and want to see more, please show support by either signing the petition to help grab the publisher's attention, donate to my Patreon so that I may self-publish your next novel after Metafiction, or generally, just share this video with anyone who might also enjoy it. Metafiction is a story I know would be rather too rebellious for normal publishers to take, so my option right now is to self-publish it. If Metafiction wasn't enough to convince you just yet, please subscribe for more stories to come. Next time, coming in 2 weeks, will be the first story I sent to contest. The spy political thriller story in NSA MSS MI6. And if you are interested in becoming the illustrator to Metafiction novel, feel free to contact me on Discord. Or if you want to more directly support my cause to save the anime industry, or just have an interest in becoming an anime style writer, but doesn't know where to start, click here to go to the Premise Factory video, where I will be giving away anime style story premises for free for you to explore and build upon. The video will be coming up next week after this one. For the first one, we are talking isekai basics. Thank you for watching, and if you like this video, please press like, comment, and share this video to anyone else who might be interested. See you next time.